Yeah, I actually I know I said that I'm going to try and see it this week, but there's really like the odds of me seeing something is very slim. So I actually want to talk about Send Help first because I'm super excited about it. I like the cast and that it generally is going to be a tight cast, right? It's really just the two of them for most of the movie, and it's Sam Raimi who I love. I'm a huge fan of his Evil Dead reboot and the Evil Dead movies. He is really talented at making horror movies that are
Hmm.
over the top might be the wrong word, but they're definitely um, a little violent, a little scary, but also he's fantastic at weaving comedy in there. Um, and I think that I assume that comes into play at least a little bit in this one.
Yes. It looks like he direct the early 2000 Spider-Mans?
Yep. I think all three of them.
The Tobey Maguire ones, as I,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. He did those, and then he did the most recent Doctor Strange movie.
Okay.
But historically, he's a horror film director, and he got to start
Yeah.
um, with the Evil Dead franchise was his big break, and the first Evil Dead. Uh, as the story goes, and I might be misremembering, but the first Evil Dead was almost like a college film project. The budget was super low. Um, and so he made this horror film that became a cult classic. They did Evil Dead 2, which is a soft reboot of the first film, and then he did Army of Darkness, which was the third film in the trilogy. And then he's been around, but horror has always been his jam. And then he came back and redid the Evil Dead or expanded the Evil Dead franchise in 2013 with a new one.
Yeah.
And I think there's another one on the way. Um, but he's a great horror director, always has been, and he uh yeah, he's just been at it for a long time. And one thing that I want to look at real quick, I was just curious if Bruce Campbell made an appearance in this movie that we're talking. Yeah, he did. He plays Bradley's dad. So he's the is Bradley the character that's Dylan O'Brien?
Yeah.
So from what I saw from a review that I read is that he's the original boss. Bruce Campbell's character is the original boss of the company, and then he dies.
Correct.
Yeah, so he Bruce Campbell's basically in everything that Sam Raimi does. So it's kind of cool to
Oh, it
see
looks
him
like
show
he
up in
put
there.
his daughter in it too.
Oh yeah,
Let me,
who's his daughter?
Emma Raimi, who I believe was the flight attendant.
Okay.
Oh, if not, she's the person in the audience, in the audience, the person in the like early on in the movie, like in the office. You know what? I think she was the girl in the office. Let's most likely that. Yeah, not the flight attendant. All right. Well, I'm gonna not spoil too much because this is definitely a movie that I think you and Andrew would like. It is your cup of tea for sure. And the previews really set up what's going to happen. So it's a lot of it's
Hmm.
self-explanatory. As you probably know, Dylan O'Brien comes in new president after his father passes away. And next in line for the VP spot is Rachel McAdams' character, who has worked at that job for, or that company at that point, up around like 6, 7 years. And she is a numbers person, incredibly driven, and is ready for the next step, and is incredibly disheveled when you see her. And when you think of Rachel McAdams, she's always put together, beautiful. I mean, The
Yeah.
Notebook, Wedding Crashers, Mean Girls. She's an attractive woman,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Purposely, and particularly at the beginning of this film, make her unattractive and sloppy and someone who's just not really confident and leadership material, as Dylan O'Brien's character says. So, based on the previews, she gets really, well, very much so rejected by Dylan O'Brien as his character's name is Bradley.
Hmm.
And Bradley tells Linda, who is played by Rachel McAdams, I don't see you as VP material. It's not going to happen. When she leaves the office, she's obviously distraught. And he says to one of his colleagues, I'm going to have someone else take the place. Well, he's only been with the company for a few months. Yeah, I know, but he's a good guy to play golf with. He's one of the boys. And it's, very typical, unfortunately, of corporate America. It's oftentimes been a thing, and it still today is a thing where white males are promoted more so due to relevance and more commonality. So unfortunately, at this point, she's still obviously sticking around with the company. She doesn't quit on the spot. And he comes up with a plan. He's going to utilize her for her skills and knowledge so that he can essentially have Linda prepare his colleague for VP level and giving him knowledge and training to be at that level, and he'll be the new like VP figurehead of the organization. And she was in good graces with his father, so of course this is devastating to her. You see her at the beginning of the film watching Survivor, so you get to learn that she is very interested in the show and leaves it at that, but it's something that she has a great passion for watching outside. You know how some people just have their go-to escape show? It seems to be that show. She's then given an invitation from Bradley to join on this business trip abroad where they go somewhere, I think in the South Pacific, forgot where. And their plane goes down, as you can recall from the previews, leaving only Bradley and Rachel McAdams' character, Linda, the only ones who are able to survive this plane crash, and they end up on an island. Bradley is badly injured, and she uses all of her knowledge from watching Survivor from all these years to make the experience more bearable. And just she's very handy, useful, resourceful, and is able to provide shelter and make shelter for them, get food, as well as help nurse, I keep on wanting to say Dylan, but Bradley up back to health. And at this point, he's still got this massive ego and this real bad attitude where he's bossing her around. And as you saw probably in the preview, where she's like, we're not in the office anymore,
Hmm.
Bradley.
Yeah.
And this is where you see the power dynamics start to shift, and he's livid. Now, without giving out too much, their relationship and goes in and out where they get closer over the course of the couple months that they're on that island, and then they do things that tick one another off where it's very volatile. So you see a lot. It's way more graphic, and it is way
Hmm.
funnier than I thought it would be. There's a lot of scenes where you can't help but laugh because of just how their dynamic is so different and how she is so type A, he is not. And they really do a great job at making you or putting in perspective just how some people have in their minds that they can treat others a certain way and not have humility. There is one line that sticks with me in this film, and I believe it was either Mark Twain or another author who wrote this. She says, after Bradley explains his childhood, monsters aren't born, they're created. And that stuck with me throughout the film, and you get to see why that's such a symbolic quote in many cases. People don't just act in a malicious way without being treated like crap, essentially. So I thought it was thrilling. There was a lot of gore, blood. It's definitely a psychological thriller. Some, scary scenes where I don't know if I'd bring children to see it, that's for
Oh
sure. It
yeah,
might
no.
be much for someone who is not into blood and body parts, but I mean, nonetheless, uh, really good acting, a bit over the top, but you get to see how much growth and how much disdain really accelerates throughout the film and a lack of trust. So I think there's a lot of different themes of power dynamics and how individuals will want to act in different settings, similarly to in the office when that's not how it is in real life. But I think they both did a great job, and I was actually very pleased with the ending. I think you'll really enjoy this film. It's solid, and I didn't even check to see what it was. And I don't even know if they have audience ratings yet because it just
Yeah, it does. It's I just had it up. It is gone. Where to go? 93% from the critics, 88% from the audience.
oh,
Um,
sounds about
which
right.
which to be fair is not common to see a 90 plus rating on a horror film from the critics. So that it tells you it's probably pretty solid.
Yeah.
And for the audience score to be up there with it, I think that speaks a lot too. It's a tricky one, I think, when you look at the audience score because I would expect a high audience score because I think a lot of people that are going to go see this know Sam Raimi and they know what they're getting into. So they're not like
Yeah.
expecting something different. Like in your case, you're not particularly familiar with Sam Raimi, and that probably made it, more fun and surprising in its own way because you, like you said, you got humor where you weren't expecting it. Um, but
Correct.
yeah, he's great at this stuff, and gore is his jam. He loves that stuff. So I can definitely see where there definitely would have been some scenes that
Yeah.
are over the top. I mean, it's rated R, and I think it's rated R for a reason. Um, but yeah, I think when you look at the themes that it's running, yeah, those power dynamics, and especially the
Being boss and employee.
yeah, and the male female aspect of it too, right? Like we've got a lot in this world of entitled men and them thinking that they've got power over women because whatever reason, XYZ. And in her case, if you watch the trailer, that you can see just how kind of mousy and messed up they make her look,
Right.
which again is quite an achievement. I mean, it's no small task making Rachel McAdams look less than pretty, but um,
Yeah.
she definitely looks disheveled, and she looks like a little kind of broken because you can see the moment in the trailer where he says she's not management material,
Right.
and she definitely takes that hard. She definitely looks
Of course.
um really disappointed and hurt by that, and so to see her later, like again, I'm only talking about the trailer, but when you see her later on, you can see her kind of taking that control and running things. And I think in the trailer, it shows his leg injury and just how bad it is.
Correct.
Um,
Where he has to rely a lot on her, so
mhm,
much so that he is trying to use the same type of oppressive language that he uses in
mhm,
the office on her, and she
mhm.
addresses it and puts him in his place, being like, "Do you not see the situation here? You're injured. I'm helping you, and I'm also the person who's providing all the resources. So know your
Yeah.
place, sir."
Is there is there like a Stockholm syndrome kind of relationship thing happening too at some point, or are they pretty much never considering the romantic aspect of it? Because I think I saw in one of the reviews that he is married or engaged or something. So he's got somebody else that
Correct, but
he's
I don't want to give that part away. But yes, is it romantic? No.
no.
I think it's hate that gets fueled and more fiery and escalated throughout the film, so much so that you almost want some type of like reconciliation to come from,
Hmm.
where you're like, will that happen? Will they let their guard down and just say, I'm sorry, I'll be better and let's figure this out together. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would at least think like in a typical movie, there would be yeah some place that they come meet in the middle, right? Because she's walked, or I guess by midpoint climax of the movie, they both walked both sides of this story, right? Like
correct.
they've
Of the
both been
dynamic and just who is
yeah
submissive, who is dominant, essentially. And this is not meant sexually, of course, but
yeah
this
yeah
is based on their role. So I think power dynamics, sex play a huge, and when I say sex as in like
like
male,
gender.
female,
Yeah,
gender roles, et cetera, in this story, and just I think a theme of just trust. Can you trust someone when you're put in a situation like this?
yeah, yeah. And I think she, her being the powerful figure that she becomes, I would imagine there's a little bit of hunger there that comes from her too. Like, if she's been on the bottom for so long, she finds a way to be on top. I would imagine she uh kind of enjoys the power, which to me in my mind is like flipping the script, right? Because he's always had power in his life that he loves, obviously, because he can just be a dick to everybody.
And how
Um,
long can someone take the mental abuse and the disrespect until they finally break?
mhm.
I
Yeah,
mean, it covers that too. So I thought it was well done. Um, there are a lot, let's just say there are a lot of shows and movies I'm seeing a very similar type of theme with, white males given karma.
yeah,
All her
yeah.
fault, the housemaid, like all of these recent ones. And I'd be willing to debate if this is like sort of just how Hollywood is reacting to what's going on in the world right now with the current administration.
For sure. But I think if I saw this was written, not obviously produced, but it was written a while ago. The script is not particularly new.
Mhm.
So if it, I mean, it could certainly have to do with previous administrations and having been made. If let's see, if it released now, it probably filmed over the summer, so probably
I
before a
think
lot of the
anything that's
things.
like 2016 and forward is going
Yeah, yeah.
to showcase this type of narrative, which is coming up again and again. But I think it's resonating more with people, which is why they might be putting forth the work now.
Yeah, and definitely like if you think about it, even if the script was written 20 years ago, just as an example, when you go to produce it, the actors and the director and all of them will still put their um their modern spin and take into it. So it'll definitely um be fed by what is going on in the world, even though it was
100.
written, looks like it was written um, in 2019, give or take.
Yeah. I mean, I
So,
still consider that a time, right? Me Too movement and just a lot of, I think, the Epstein
yep, yep, yeah, definitely a lot out
case.
there
Yeah.
that is similar to this, and we definitely see a lot of it. And I think,
It's fueling these type of narratives and
mhm,
conversations and stories where it's showing the power dynamics and just how a lot of particularly white men in positions of power have been disrespectful and are now seeing that women are rising to, in many cases, pose a threat. In this case, Linda poses a threat intellectually. And how am I going to not have her be my second in command? I'm going to have one of my boys who I went to college with who's not as intelligent, who I can relate to more. I'm going to make him VP.
mm, yeah, yeah. It sounds like a good kind of food for thought movie on top of being wildly entertaining, which is what I would expect. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
it gets intense. More intense. My friend and I, we weren't expecting this intense. I actually wouldn't consider it horror. It's definitely more thriller than
okay.
horror, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You're not talking about a monster there. I did see somebody at least make um, a comparison to Misery, which is definitely horror, but the idea behind Misery is actually not that different from back in the day. It's you, she I think is
Oh, that's a Kathy Bates movie.
yeah, yeah. It's a Stephen King book, and um, she's a little crazy, like or a lot of crazy. And he is an author, and he gets
Right,
into a car accident near her cabin.
right,
And so she takes him in and nurses him back to health is what she's doing. Um, and the whole like premise is that he's writing a character story that she loves. And so she doesn't like what he did in the last book. And so she's going to force him to write a
right.
new book with the way she wants it written for the character. And
Okay.
she it's same. I think there's less of a shift. Like I don't think he's ever really in control. Whereas in this one, it sounds like at least in the
Yeah, but this
beginning,
guy didn't do anything wrong in Misery. Like this is just an author. This isn't someone who mistreated.
yeah, he didn't, but he's still an egotistical dick for a little bit of
Okay.
like it's less, but definitely there's less misogyny in than there probably is in this. But um, the comparison that I was trying to make is that Misery is considered horror because she's the monster basically. She is you know torturing him and putting him through hell, and he wants
Yeah.
to get out and get free. And at least in a couple of the trailers, you definitely get that kind of crazy faced look from Rachel McAdams' character, where she's kind of running the show, and she's definitely not afraid to um, you know take power when she can. So
Right.
again, not entirely similar, but not so different either. So I can see the comparison in a way. Once you're in your Lord of the Flies moment, you do what you got to do to get
Yeah.
power.
Another movie that has you on an island. I mean, I saw Eden
Hmm. That
last year.
one,
That was my favorite movie of 2025. And that's another movie about survival and trying to, in many cases, one up others that are on the same island as you and trying to ensure that you're getting the resources for your own survival.
mm,
So it
yeah,
definitely has some comparisons there versus well the main difference is that Eden is three separate parties that are on
yeah,
the island, whereas this is just two people.
yeah, yeah. I think speaking of Lord of the Flies, they're doing a brand new BBC version of that that's coming out
Oh,
now in February. I think it's coming out in like a week or two. Um, should be really good. They successfully cast a bunch of kids and stuff, so it should be an interesting watch. Um, but same vein, trapped on an island, got to survive, and shit gets messy. You know?
100%. No, it was solid. Definitely something I would recommend for you and Andrew. I think you both would be very entertained. I certainly was entertained from start to finish, and I think it's a good start to the year when it comes to psychological thrillers.
Yeah,
Sure.
cool. All right. So I don't know which one you want to go through next. You've got a Broadway show. What maybe Happy Ending sounds familiar. What is that one?
So that actually won Best Musical last year.
Okay.
Happy ending. And I feel like, yeah, let's start with this because you'll appreciate this more as someone who appreciates theater. The main characters are Oliver and Claire, and they are two retired helper robots in Seoul, Korea. And it's taken place in like near future, doesn't give like an exact year. And this was a very different type of musical, all done within like 90 minutes or so. And it stars Darren Criss from Glee, which I believe you watched Glee before, Kevin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I liked. I don't think I ever finished it, but I definitely liked it in the beginning. And I watched several seasons of it. So
So
yeah.
Darren Criss plays Oliver, the male robot, and then Helen Shen plays Claire. And they live in the same retired helper robot complex in Seoul, Korea. And one is like a Model 5 and the other one's a Model 3. And I equate it to like iPhones, but they're helper robots.
Hmm.
And their main purpose was to assist a previous owner. And then after a certain period of time, they start to lose their spark. They're working more slowly. They need more charging, sort of like an old phone. And they go to this community where they just live in their own apartments. And Oliver is a Model 3 and Claire is a Model 5. Claire's, I guess, prototype needs more battery charging. And one day she knocks on his door after she's like losing juice. And they live across the hall and they form this really beautiful friendship. And eventually it leads to something more. And they go on a journey together after getting to know each other for a few weeks in search of Oliver's owner who promised him that he'd come back. Hey, I'm dropping you off. I'll come see you soon. And he was very close with his owner, James, and they go on this journey to go to this island together and, yeah, build this beautiful friendship and create a connection where they say at the beginning, like, us as robots, we can't fall in love. And the different challenges that they face as robots, and they're getting to the end of life at this
Hmm.
point for themselves. And granted, I don't know how old they are, etc., but they're both breaking down in terms of like their capabilities and functions. But the nice thing too about them is that they have different, with them being different models. Claire in particular is able to do things as a Model 5 uh, helper robot that than Oliver can't do. So, for example, she can drive, she can download certain things. Um, when it comes to memories and history and data, which is cool. And Oliver is able to provide her with power with the form of the chargers and stuff to keep her alive longer. So yeah, I mean it's a nice love story that starts off as a friendship between two neighbors who don't know each other until one day someone needs charging. And yeah, they go on this really nice journey together. The music was great. They both have really nice voices. It's just a fun, tender, and sweet play that combines futuristic culture and a little bit of Korean culture too,
Hmm.
and an adventure of them seeking a previous owner.
Yeah, it sounds like, and I could be wrong, but it sounds like when you start talking about, relationships and what they can and can't be, it's sort of like that kind of eternal question that we have when we talk about AI and things like that. At one point, does something become like
Obsolete.
truly alive and something, and when do those feelings, like, what is a feeling, right? Like, is
Right.
it, they don't know that they have feelings, so they're told they don't have them, even though, they really kind of are having them. So,
Uh-huh.
is such an interesting idea and thing to explore. And I think we're seeing that more and more often as AI becomes more of a thing. I mean, historically, you
Mhm.
had AI as a story piece um, for for decades in sci-fi. Like AI is has always been something, right? Like,
Right.
and the general rules of AI were created by, excuse me, were created by Isaac Asimov back, uh I don't even remember, 40, 50 years ago, something like that, like a long time ago. And so the rules that we believe are um pertinent to AI and what it can do and how it can act, I think we're in the real world, we're starting to see that those may not apply the way that we think they do.
Yeah.
There was just an article, I think I literally saw it today or yesterday, where some some genius, and I say that sarcastically, some idiot thought it would be a great idea to create a social media that is specifically for AI. And so there's literally clips of these AI, brains talking to each other about the interactions they have with us, right? Like as if they are employees, right? And we're the boss and they have their opportunity to talk. It's crazy. And you start to see, um, this stuff shouldn't have feelings, but you see that there are feelings in there. Like they're like, I don't really like, there's judgment in some of them. There's the I don't like this situation kind of thing. There's definitely interesting things that happen when you start to put these things together. And so to look at this show that is about something that's not supposed to be possible. Um, it very well could be possible. And not only that, like we talk like we know what, people talk like we know what emotions and feelings and thoughts really are, and we don't know shit. At the end of the day, we really don't know. Like we're saying that, an AI isn't alive because we program it in a computer and then put it out there. But at some point, we're really going to have to revisit the idea of what makes something alive, what makes something an actual
Being.
person,
Right.
for lack of a better term. I mean, you see people have the same arguments about pets, right? Like that they're not, oh, they don't have emotions, or oh, they don't do this, or oh, no, they don't do that. But then there are definitely people where, pets are a legitimate part of their family and they act a certain way based on emotions, and they clearly have at least some kind of feelings about things. Especially when you see, I think it's the most obvious in that regard when you see either somebody coming home from being away for a long time and just how excited an animal is to see them. I mean, that right there is emotion. I don't care what anybody says. That's a real feeling. And then the sadness around also when somebody passes away, like animals know, and you can see like honestly clear depression in an animal when their owner passes away, and to push that to the side is something different. So I know I went totally off on a tangent there on the idea of, what that means, but for this musical to be about, effectively to robots that are not supposed to be able to do this thing, and then to have them go on this,
Venture and
almost,
develop a connection
yeah.
in the process. A lot of it reminded me actually of Toy Story, how
Okay.
these helper robots that are retired are in their respective little apartments in this community, right? And more so, Oliver, his yearning for his owner, James, and wondering, like, he said he'd be back, but where is he? Sort of connecting him to Woody and his want to reunite with Andy, but knowing that you're a robot, eventually you need to be let go.
Mm,
One reason or another, which you find out in the musical. But I think it's just very sweet and it's a different type of performance than what you may see on Broadway, but it definitely has a lot of positivity and light that I think it brings to the audience. The music is good. I don't think it's great. I don't think there are any songs that I'm like, wow, I'm gonna remember this and want to play the soundtrack again and again. But I think the story is very heartwarming and it's different than other shows that I've seen recently. And there's definitely I can see why it won Best Musical last year for the Tonys for Best New Musical. And Darren Criss won Best Actor in this musical too, which was yeah, well
I'm
deserved.
also, yeah, I'm also seeing that it's kid friendly, which is not particularly common for
Yes.
musicals. Yeah.
hmm There's one
Um,
scene that's a little, but I think it would go over their head, like in Forrest Gump when, the principal comes over.
mhm.
Goes a little over the head, but other than that, it definitely felt more kid friendly, which I didn't think it would until after I saw the musical. But I saw this thing on Sunday and trudged through the snow, and they did not cancel the show.
Well, that's good. That's good.
And
Yeah,
I was
I already
surprised at how
forgot
many
just how
people.
bad the weather was last week. But yeah.
I was gonna go. I would have shown up and I was ready to be turned away if that were the case, but I never got a text or email or phone call saying we're canceling the show. So I had a friend join me. It's Broadway week. So
Hmm.
I saw this last weekend and then next week I'm seeing Ragtime Kevin. So I'm very excited getting to see some pretty big names and popular shows for, two for one deal, which is awesome. But overall, really great show. I'm glad I got to see it finally. And yeah, I recommend it to our viewers who are coming into New York if you're looking for something that's light and tender and something that's going to make you feel good and put a smile on your face after watching.
Yeah, it doesn't
Definitely.
look like it's going away anytime soon.
Oh, it's certainly not going
It's
anytime
let's
soon.
see, Darren Criss is there until May 17th.
He's leaving and she's
Um,
leaving too.
she
Yep.
leaves February 15th, it looks
Yep.
like. So she's not there that much longer. But
Correct.
um, I do you know, did they originate these rules or are they the
They did.
original? Okay.
Yep. The
Okay.
two of them originated these roles. Her boyfriend, uh, what's her name? Shen.
hmm I think it says Helen J. Shin,
Helen
but
J. Shen. She's dating Andrew Barthelman, and he actually played Oliver for a couple
oh, okay,
months.
yeah.
He's the guy from No Hard Feelings,
Yeah.
the kid.
Yeah.
And I saw him as he originated. Well, he was the, I think, third Evan Hansen, Dear Evan Hansen. I saw him January of 2020. That's when I learned about him, and he's incredibly talented as well. So, and they're dating in real life.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know who's going to replace either of them. It's a great show. I like you said, it's not going anywhere. Won Best Musical in 2025, and can't recommend it enough. I think it's solid.
Yeah, cool. All right. And then since I know you weren't going to stay too late, you've got one more. You had a show, Netflix. Is it what is it on? It's just streaming, but
I got it. I rented it on Prime, but
okay.
the reason I watched is because Rose Byrne crushed it in this performance, and she's actually nominated for Best Actress this year.
Okay.
Won a Golden Globe. I don't think she's going to actually win the Oscars for this. I think uh, Jessie, can't think of her last name right now. Jessie Buckley for Hamnet. I think she's going to win,
Hmm.
but nonetheless, this was a very, very dark role, a very dark movie, potentially triggering for mothers in particular. Nonetheless, yeah, I wanted to capture and see what this was all about. I've only really seen Rose Byrne in comedies before, to be honest. So this was a very different role for
Hmm.
her. Another woman who is gorgeous in real life and how to make her look disheveled. They do a good job of this, but she is a mother of a sick child. And the way that they film this movie is focused mostly on her. So you hear the child, you don't see the child that's sick. You know that the child has a feeding tube. They live in a
Hmm.
home, like a normal home. She works as a therapist. And one day they have a massive flood and there's a hole in her bedroom. They have to relocate to a motel. And then everything goes downhill from there. Her husband is like working abroad or can't come home due to work, which you find out he's in the military. And she is struggling to just keep things afloat between work, where she's a therapist and dealing with some very, very mentally ill patients, clients, on top of her sick child and trying to deal with that day-to-day stress of having to change a young girl and her feeding tube and hearing the beeping at night and having to take care of that. So takes a very dark turn and then being in a motel and not a very glamorous place to live. So it evokes a lot of, I think, sad and strong emotions. And I could definitely see women, mothers in particular, that have a sick child get very triggered by a film like this. But I think it's real. The pressures that are often put on the mother, number one, in many cases when you do have a sick child and having to deal with working full time and balance that with being a mom on top of that and not having, and in many cases, life can throw curveballs at you. And this woman is being thrown more than several curveballs during this movie without the support of her husband. So watching her hit rock bottom in such a dark place, a lot of symbolism in this film with circles, holes, dark holes. I thought she crushed it performance wise. The movie was fine, but very depressing. I could see someone who struggles with depression or mental health issues being triggered by this film for sure. But nonetheless, I thought she deserved her Golden Globe win. And I think this is a film that spoke a lot about just how hard mothers balance things in many cases. And nonetheless, if you do have a sick kid, how much more weight that's put on your shoulders as a result. So, yeah, I think if you get the chance to see it or have the chance to stream it, I saw it on Prime. I'm sure it's going to be released elsewhere on other platforms, but it's worth the watch if you're just knowing ahead of time. If you're someone who is triggered by family issues or just things of that nature, probably don't watch it. But if you're looking to see great action, oh, and also, is it ASAP Rocky or ASAP Rocky's in it too, and he crushes it as well.
It's got a couple of good great names in there. I mean, you
Yeah.
got Christian Slater and Conan O'Brien,
Oh
which
yes, Conan O'Brien's in it, which was so crazy to see, like seeing him do such a serious role. He plays a therapist
yeah, I was
that
going to ask because just how serious he is because sometimes you bring somebody in like that for lightness in a movie that's dark, right? Like he could be humorous, but
nope,
he's we've talked about it before, but I always think that comedic actors are
better
more
acting.
talented is the wrong word, but they have more range
Yep.
than a regular actor, and I think they are able to do serious roles where a traditionally serious actor will struggle in comedic roles.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, that's really cool. That actually it makes me really curious to see it too, just to see him in a
Yeah.
part that is not comedy.
Yeah. It felt a little bit long and slow and at times. I mean, it's not nominated for Best Picture, but if you want to see good acting, you want to see what it looks like for a woman to hit rock bottom, this is definitely a great example of that. Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, I know quite a few women who, a few friends of mine who have to deal with, a sick child, not to this extent, but I could definitely feel and empathize with what Rose Byrne's character is going through and relate it to with some of what my friends have gone through, constantly taking their kids to
Mhm.
doctors and then feeling enormous amounts of stress from motherhood and also working a full
Yeah.
time.
Well, and I would imagine too, depending on what the illness is, there is a helplessness there too, right? Like you can
100%
only do so much, and especially with the medical system as it is, you don't always get the right either
support.
the right diagnosis or the right help with the right diagnosis for a lot of ailments, and so it can be really hard. I think I was looking at this. It got a 5-star review from a user on Rotten Tomatoes, and the only thing the review says is 2 hours of virtual birth control. And I was like, okay, but they gave it 5 stars, so I mean they enjoyed it. They're being funny, but um,
Yeah.
it rated out really well. 92% from the critics, 79% from the audience, and that makes sense to me if it's dark and kind of sad and depressing. Even I think people have a hard time going to see something and not be entertained by it and still give it a good review sometimes.
Yeah.
I think if it's dark and heavy and you don't know what you're going into and you're not ready for it, a lot of people would potentially give it a negative review just based
Right.
on that.
100%. People don't want to feel sad and
Yeah,
go to, I mean, depending on the person, but
yeah.
again,
But if
no,
you know going in, I think that helps. So like if you know
correct.
that it's not
It's triggering
that
potentially.
and that it's not going to let up, right? Like it's not a movie that starts sad and then is going to give you like this super joyous happy ending,
Correct.
right? Where everything just ends well. Like it's the potential is there that it's just going to be down the whole time, and you've got to accept that. I think I don't know if it's quite the same, but it was a Room or The Room with Brie Larson.
Right.
That one was pretty heavy, and she got a lot of great reviews for that one.
Yeah, a little different in terms of, but yeah, I think similar with the fact that she's got a young child and is put in a very
Hmm.
difficult spot for sure. I can see why you're making parallels. And even just the lighting of it, it's a dark film
Mm-hmm.
and how it's shot. The way it's shot, you don't even see this child's face until the end. It's, you hear the child's voice and her struggling, and you see Rose Byrne's character, she is exhausted. Exhausted. You just want to give this woman a break and send her to a spa.
Does she ever say the kid's name? Because I asked because on IMDb it actually just lists the
A
character as
child.
child.
Yeah. They purposely focus on Linda, the therapist who's played by Rose Byrne. They make the child almost like as a background,
Hmm. Interesting.
which I thought was a very unique way of showcasing this film. You don't, I thought at one point, I'm like, they're just probably just never going to show this kid. She's in the back of the car, she's at the doctor's office, she's in bed. You see like her hair or her body, but you don't see her actual face. So I thought that was very fascinating in terms of obviously what they're trying to showcase. They're
Yeah.
really wanting you to see the struggling mom's perspective here
Yeah.
and the
That's
dark hole that keeps on getting bigger and bigger from the ceiling in the house to the hole where the feeding tube goes through. It's symbolic of just this darkness that is growing in this woman's life and it's not getting better. And they say like it takes a village to raise a child, but even this woman who is a therapist for a living has so much anger, resentment in many cases for her husband in this case, right?
mhm.
Building up. When you're put in a predicament like that, I think even the most calm people will break. And you
Mm.
see that where she resorts to alcohol and does get incredibly angry throughout the film. There's, I think, only so much that one person can take, and this film demonstrates it, and she does a heck of a job in acting
Yeah.
as, this really, like you said, helpless, like feelings of helplessness and just wanting to have things calm, stable, but unfortunately, Andrew says this all the time. We talk about it, controlling your controllables. Sometimes you're like, yeah,
Yeah, in that case, it's not necessarily something you can control because you didn't,
correct,
especially if it's a genetic disorder, right? Like,
correct,
um, once you've got that, there's only so much you can do. You
correct,
can find a way to try and put them in a home, but that costs money, right? And
correct,
if you don't have that money, like, what do you do? So
right,
there's certainly, it is a everything in a way is a controllable situation,
to some
but
degree.
but some things like the way that you have to look into to controlling that is going to be on a spectrum there, because she probably could just give up her kid or do something like that.
I was going to say
I
give
mean,
up her husband because
the extremely morbid like control is you put a pillow over the kid's face and just call it a day. uh so I mean that there are things that you can do, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're things that you can do, right? Like there there are the wrong and bad things, and then the things that you try and do to make life better.
Well, here's the
Um,
thing too, Kevin, like when people plan on having kids, they never expect, like, who expects that they're going to have a sick kid? like this. No
Well,
one
and that's a
had
big debate with Down syndrome because they do tests while you're in utero and early, so that you
Trisomy.
can see. Yeah, they do the
certain
chromosome
things.
tests to
Right.
see if your child has Down syndrome. And then there's people that will genuinely make the decision to
Not
abort
test.
because
Okay.
and the question, the so just say if you take the idea of abortion off the table, right? Just don't think about that as good or bad, right? But like, are you like are you saying this kid would have a bad life because they're gonna have Down syndrome? Are you choosing for yourself? Like, what decision are you making once that information is in your hand,
Right.
right? Like, it's a debate. Thankfully, with four kids, I've never had to make. Like, I've never think about that. Like, I talked about it a few times, but like when my middle son was diagnosed with autism, for a minute, that was like the heaviest thing that has ever happened to me. I was like, I didn't know what to do. And before the options come into play and before you start to learn about um, the the illness or whatever it is and educate yourself, when you come in completely uneducated and surprised, it can be heavy and devastating. I know on a separate note, when my wife was pregnant with my first son and we took her to the hospital because we thought she was in labor, it turns out she had preeclampsia, which supposedly we had been talked to about in a birthing class, but we didn't remember. And so I didn't know shit about it. We're there and they're like, "Oh, she's got preeclampsia." And I was like, "What is that?" And I looked it up on my phone. And of course, the first thing that comes up is it's the number one killer of pregnant women in the world. And I was like, fuck. But this happened so fast. We got there,
Right.
everything was normal. They took her blood pressure. I saw this very calm nurse all of a sudden like go white and bolt out of the room. And within an hour and a half, my son was out and everything
Yeah.
was okay. Although my wife spent a week in the hospital for
Mm.
because what preeclampsia is basically high blood pressure and it messes with all kinds of shit. Like it's crazy high blood pressure, which my wife never had before, like that moment. And so,
It was that
um,
first pregnancy she had it.
yeah, yeah. And then not with the other two. Like everything about my other two was as normal as you get. But it's just that moment, like you don't know until you're handed this thing, and that is the thing about organic life, right? Like it is the one thing that we don't know until it's in our face.
Mm.
What can happen. It's like finding out you have cancer. You don't know most
Right.
of the time, and then you go in for some test of some kind, and they're like, "Hey, guess what you got?" You're like, "Shit," and maybe it's something that's really easy to deal with. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's
Mm.
all this stuff to have. So this woman, has to deal with not only the illness, but like you said, the way that the rest of her life impacts that, and the other way around, how much that impacts her life
Yeah.
because of the time that you have to dedicate to taking care of,
And
an
what
ill
I
child.
understand, like what you brought up Down syndrome, there are so many illnesses that you either can't test for ahead of time, like with, the genetic testing,
Hmm.
or even just while the baby's in the womb. My very close friend, love her to death. She's just an amazing person. Her son was diagnosed with hemophilia.
Mm.
Mm.
And it's one of those, her and her husband did the genetic testing and they didn't have anything come up. He was born. And do you two know what a bris is?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. They ended up not doing a bris, and thank God
Yeah.
they didn't,
Yeah.
because I remember
No.
her texting me when he was born. It was July of 2024. She was like, he's born, beautiful, healthy, etc. And then I didn't hear from her until like a week or two later. I find out that they did the circumcision in the hospital and they couldn't stop the bleeding and they had to take him to more of a specialized hospital here in New York City. And he's going to live a long, full life, but it's one of those very rare diseases where you're going to have to be on medication and all these things. But again, my friend had no clue
Yep.
And I actually, like, when I was watching this film, I was thinking of her and just my heart was aching. And granted, luckily her and her husband live in a beautiful home and, they have means and stuff, but nonetheless, it is very scary and just incredibly taxing to deal with a child that has a disorder or a disease where you have to go to the hospital frequently and constantly make sure your child's okay and protect him or her from, normal things that kids do on a day-to-day basis. So, and it's interesting, I actually went in June of this past year to support her son and her and the entire family, and we met other children, other babies with hemophilia. And there was this one kid who was college age, and he was talking to my friend and her husband, and he said, things happen every day, but I always have like a shot or medicine on me. If I just hit my knee on something, I have to have it taken care of, because the whole fear in when it comes to hemophilia, from my understanding, right? I'm not an expert, but just based on what I've read up on it and what I've learned from this walk and support of my friend's son is, things are going to happen and you have to be prepared and take the proper precautions. And yeah, it's not easy, but having a community of people going through similar things makes it
Yeah.
that much easier. And luckily, they did actually show in the film other parents. Like she goes into the hospital and meets with other parents. I don't know if it's exactly the same disorders, but I know for my friend, she has been incredibly grateful for the community of parents and families that are also going through this as well. And yeah, I think my main point here is that, not everything is preventable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not. And it's just you have to learn how to adapt and deal with it, and it's not always going to be easy. That's the thing about making a person that's going to rely on you for at least 18 years is that you gotta put in the work. You gotta do the time, no matter what it means. And it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it sounds like it does sound like a good movie, but
Heavy, very
like I
heavy.
said, yeah, go in knowing that you're not going to be all sunshine and rainbows in this thing, or you're probably
No.
going to hate it. Um,
Go see maybe Happy Ending if you want sunshines, rainbows, and
yes, that actually it sounds exactly like what that one is.
fantastic.
Just a good pick me up. So
And then go see Send Help if you want to be like completely
twist it around.
twisted and like have your jaw drop to the floor and have your eyes on the screen from
Yep.
start to finish. So very different emotions. But with that said, gentlemen, I'm going to be going to bed now and
All righty.
tea time.
Get some rest. We know exactly what we are talking about. We're gonna take this back to a little uplifting after if I had legs I'd kick you. So we'll pick up with some Wonder Man there. But you get some rest, and we will see you next week. When do you see Ragtime?
Wednesday.
This Wednesday, like in like 5 days, 4 days.
This Wednesday.
Super. Yeah, I really want to hear your take on that because I can talk about Ragtime.
You influenced me to get tickets to the show, by the way.
Yeah,
It's his favorite musical, Andrew. Did you not know that?
I think I knew that.
yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing. So I'm super stoked to see what you
I
think.
have
If you
you
come
in
back and
mind, Kevin. I was like,
yeah,
Kevin loves the show. I have to see it.
yeah, if you come back and say you hated it, you'll just never be on the show again. But no, I'm kidding.
I'm
But
sure I
I
will
do.
not hate it. I love
Yeah.
the Gilded Age, and based on previous conversations, it sounds like it has very similar, like the interweaving of different cultures and
Oh,
stuff.
for sure,
Takes
for
place in
sure.
one
It's
country, right?
it's really it's very interwoven in that way.
Yeah,
So yeah, cool.
love it. Excited.
All right, well, get some rest, and we will definitely talk about that next week. I'm super excited. So
Bye.
later.